what is going on, everybody? I just thought I would answer some of the questions that I've been seeing in the comment section about the Pixel 4. I've replied to a bunch of them, I think, as many as I could, but I thought I'd make a video in case there are other people with some of the same questions. And some of these will just be comments, some of these will be suggestions that some people made in the comment section. So one of the main ones I was getting is, am I using the Pixel 4 or Pixel 4 XL? I tried to make that clear in my videos, but I am indeed using the regular, smaller 5.7-inch display Google Pixel 4, not the XL. So the regular, smaller Google Pixel 4. I'm not going to say the usernames of all of these. Some of the usernames would be a little bit awkward, a little bit awkward to read. You guys are definitely creative, a little bit vulgar, but I think it's funny. Let's see, one person asked if I still have the OnePlus 7 Pro. If so, have I used it on Android 10? They were probably referencing in one of my videos when I said that I preferred the Google Pixel 4 as far as stock Android experiences, preferred it to the OnePlus 7 Pro. I haven't tried the 7T or 7T Pro, but I figure the 7 Pro and this are comparable in terms of, for example, the 90 Hz refresh rate. Yes, I did try the OnePlus 7 Pro on Android 10. The update had just been released the week before, so I tried it on Android 10, and it was a smooth, solid experience as you'd expect on a OnePlus device. But it just seemed like the software was integrated slightly better here. I liked the animations here better. It was, I don't know, it just seemed more polished. It seemed a little bit smoother, even though it is very snappy on the OnePlus 7. But my biggest gripes with the OnePlus 7 is that just some of the hardware just isn't quite as good now. The camera is one thing. The camera is fine on the OnePlus 7. It is not like the Google Pixel 4's camera. Of course, the OnePlus 7 does have the advantage of a wide angle. Maybe not quite as wide as, say, the S10's wide angle, the Galaxy S10. Of course, the iPhone 11 just integrated a wide angle, which, I mean, the field of view is pretty wide. However, it is not as clear as the S10's wide angle lens. But yeah, so I did try the OnePlus 7 Pro on Android 10, and I mean, it was fine. But if I'm picking between the two, this is just a better experience here on the Google Pixel 4, in my opinion. Again, a lot of people, this is subjective, and the OnePlus has a lot of loyal fans, and they will point out to you that they paid less for their phone. And I will say that I think the Google Pixel 4 may be slightly overpriced, but at the same time, the hardware across the board, in my opinion, is better. Not necessarily nicer in all respects, but better on the Google Pixel 4. Even the microphone recording is a little bit clearer on this device than the OnePlus 7. So I hope that answers that. One person wrote that design-wise, that forehead is way too big. And look, I agree with you. The forehead is pretty large on this, and I kind of prefer sort of the sleekness of, the almost bezel-less displays like on the S10, where you've got just the punch hole cut out. Looks more futuristic. However, you get used to this very quickly, and what helps you get used to it is the fact that there's uses to this big forehead. So it is I don't know if satisfying is the word, but it is definitely the fastest and I think the most satisfying face unlock on any phone. Not only is it secure, it's very smooth, and the phone just knows when you're gonna pick it up. And using that Solid radar tech and motion sense, it just knows when you're going to pick it up, and it does so with ease and quickly and securely. I'm aware of the whole if your eyes are closed I can still unlock it thing, but I'm talking about just in comparison to some of the devices where the primary unlock method is the fingerprint. The face unlock is a little bit less secure and a little bit secondary to that. But I prefer having the option of a fingerprint or the face unlock, but if I'm gonna have only face unlock, I prefer it on this than any other device. So there you go, real quick. And let's see, what's next? Somebody asked me, out of curiosity, what is 5 out of 5 for your design in 2019? They are referring to my Google Pixel 4 review, in which I rated several different categories out of 5 for the device, and one of those was design, and I gave the Google Pixel for a 3.5 out of 5, which is actually the highest I've ever given for a Pixel device. I think a lot of people will agree that previous Pixels were on the uglier side, or at least less appealing, even if they were good phones. But this is definitely the nicest Pixel that's come out, in my opinion, easily. So, but I love that question. Which phone would I give a 5 out of 5 out of design this year? Quite honestly, it is, and I've mentioned this before, the Galaxy S10. Okay, you've got a beautiful reflective glass back on this prism white version, yet it doesn't show a ton of fingerprints. Okay, the thing I like the most is this chrome finish around the sides. This is a polished aluminum chassis, and it's just beautiful. I just find it absolutely gorgeous, because I like to rock my phones without a case, and you can put a case on this one. As long as it's a clear one, it'll still look great. I appreciate the black camera housing. I do not like when you just see the lenses and some color around that. I like the black camera housing. Some people dislike the curved edges on the display. I don't mind it, I like it, but even if you dislike it, of course there's the S10e with a flat display, and it has a very similar design ethos. Of course, a different camera housing, but yeah, it's not easy for me to give a 5 out of 5 in any category, to be honest, and it shouldn't be easy. But as far as 2019, the closest one to that, definitely the best designed phone of the year, in my opinion. Nice ergonomic edges, and just beautiful. I like the, again, how futuristic the display looks, in my opinion. You know, with that punch hole cutout and minimal bezels. So definitely the S10, if that answers your question, hopefully. And listen, just to show that there's no bias, for example, in, I believe it was 2012, I think, that, or 2011, the best designed phone, in my opinion, was the Nokia N9, if you remember that beautiful device. As far as Apple, I don't always like Apple's iPhone designs through the years, but the iPhone 10, when that came out, that was a beautiful device, and I think that was the best designed phone of 2017. So it's not, just in case anybody thinks that it's not all about a particular brand, but if you're talking about best design of 2019, for me, 5 out of 5 would have to go to that Galaxy S10. All right, let's see. Somebody wrote, maybe your battery is better than other reviews because you turned off motion sense. Maybe. But in those other reviews, I don't think they have 90 hertz display forced on, which I do, and I mentioned that in my videos. So, I mean, I can prove it to you here once again. I forgot where the developer options are here. Advanced, developer options, and where is it here? You see, force 90 hertz refresh rate is on there. So maybe motion sense has helped my battery a little bit, turning that off, which I might try turning on again in the future. But yeah, for my needs, I had the 90 hertz display forced on, and I've gotten really good battery life. So somebody asked, just curious, what do you mean with Apple had nice phones? What happened? Right now, it sounds like the iPhone 11 series is the one to beat. I would respectfully disagree with that. What I meant with nice phones, we were talking about design at the time. So I was saying that the iPhone had nice phones with the 10 and 10s, in my opinion, aesthetically speaking anyway, and then the 11 series, I think, is ugly. That's just my opinion. You know, starting with the camera housing. But the ones to beat, I mean, honestly, I think they're only the ones to beat if you are absolutely entrenched in that Apple ecosystem, Apple services, etc. Everything you have. I mean, Mac, and you're using the cloud, obviously, and Apple TV, and you have an Apple Watch and all that. Then, I mean, obviously, it's really your only choice then, really, if you want to keep all that going as smoothly as possible. But in terms of overall phone to beat, there are several phones I put ahead of that, and we've talked about that. I'd even put the Pixel 4 ahead of that one. But I think overall I'd recommend an S10 or a Note 10, especially the S10 though. I just like the design ergonomics overall. I like that it still has the headphone jack if you need that. But again, these are all opinions, so I know, you know, it makes whatever you say, somebody's gonna agree with you and somebody's gonna be angry with you. And I'm not saying that any of these phones are bad or terrible or anything like that. These are first world problems, folks, and all these phones do the job, okay? The rest of it is subjective, and it depends on your needs. So Okay, somebody wrote, it's a decent display, but it's overpriced for what you are getting. It's hard to justify a device like this when you can buy a OnePlus device for $200 less with the same quality display and a pretty great camera as well. Fair. I do think this phone might be slightly overpriced. Maybe not as overpriced as others say, because if you're comparing the experience you're getting to other phones priced similarly, yes, it lacks a few things, but it also has a couple of things that the others don't. For example, the smoothest software experience, as I said, of the year, and that includes the OnePlus devices. OnePlus phones are fast, and with that 90 hertz, they're pretty smooth. Not as smooth as the Pixel. Again, better animations. You get all the quickness from the OnePlus devices, and the software is integrated slightly better, the Google Assistant, etc. So I don't want to say you get what you pay for necessarily. Some of that is true, and it does depend on your needs, but even just some of the hardware things, the camera's fine on the OnePlus again, but you've got a better camera, there's no doubt about it, on the Pixel 4. And you do lack the wide-angle lens, although the wide-angle lens on the OnePlus isn't as wide as some others. So we can go in circles about this. And like I said, even the mic recording quality I found slightly worse on the OnePlus, but they did do a better job on that in this year's lineup than they did for last year's. All right, I'll still wait for the 5XL, of course he means the Pixel 5 XL, where they will hopefully correct all the shortcomings of this year. Please learn from it, Google. Again, fair, and you hope that they do learn from those things. You hope that they will have a wide-angle lens on their phones next year. You hope that battery life is a little bit better, but again, that's been overblown by my experience as far as bad battery life or whatever. By the way, I also always have, as you can see, the always-on display turned on, and have had that since I got the phone. But you can always wait for next year, and you're always going to get an incrementally better phone. So you want to wait till next year? That's great too. I don't know what phone you have now, and if you really want an upgrade or need an upgrade, but certainly I don't think you can go wrong with the Google Pixel 4 or 4 XL, and you upgrade when you want to, but next year's phone, yeah, theoretically should be incrementally better. So you can always say that, though, no matter what year you actually upgrade your phone. Did you have adaptive battery turned on throughout this test? Talking about my battery test, and yes, adaptive battery was turned on out of the box, and I kept it on, and I've been getting pretty much the same range in terms of battery life in every single charge cycle I've had so far. It looks like you have dark mode on. Do you? That would significantly affect the battery life you're able to get on the phone. Yes, I've had dark mode enabled since the very beginning, and I love it, and I've been using dark mode since, the 2011. I had the Nokia N9. I just wanted to try that out with that Migo software, and that was all dark. And then the Lumia line in 2012 with that Nokia Lumia, I think 920, which was, I believe, the first smartphone on the market with always-on display and optical image stabilization in the camera. Awesome device. Of course, Microsoft did not do any favors getting developers on board with Windows Phone, unfortunately, but that had dark mode. And so I've been using dark mode for a long time, and I don't see myself ever going back. And I'm glad that, Android has had it for a while too. I mean, you could always download themes for your Galaxy devices and basically have dark mode. Not on all apps, but at least on, through the system UI. And I'm glad to see that it's becoming native to, both Android and iOS. Of course, iOS is usually latest to the game on those things. The iPhones are in general in terms of hardware and software, but now that it is getting on the iPhone, you hear a lot more about dark mode in American media, for example. Let's see. Would you recommend me the Pixel 4 over the iPhone 11? Again, this goes back to how entrenched you are in that Apple ecosystem, in my opinion. So if you have, let's say, a Mac, a MacBook, whatever it is, any desktop or laptop that is running Mac OS. If you have an Apple Watch, maybe you have an iPad or an iPad Pro, all your music is Apple Music, and your games, your apps, you got an Apple TV, for example. If all your services are Apple services, not Google services or anybody else, for example, then it's just easier to get the iPhone 11. Now, if you just want, strictly speaking, apples to apples, what is the best smartphone experience between the iPhone 11 and the Google Pixel 4, or the 11 Pro and the Google Pixel 4? In my opinion, it's the Google Pixel 4. I don't think either of those are the best phone of the year again. I still think that goes to the S10, which has absolutely everything except the 90 hertz display. But between those two, the Pixel is fantastic. It's absolutely awesome. The software experience, it's smoother than anything else. It's well integrated. It's fun to use. Like I said in a previous video, you just want to keep picking the phone up and using it. So if you're crazy about iMessage for some reason, along with being fully entrenched in the Apple ecosystem, maybe that's another reason to go with the iPhone 11. The wide angle lens, I don't think that's a reason alone to go for it, especially with how fantastic regular photos are on the Pixel 4. But all that stuff is subjective. You're asking me apples to apples, I go with the Pixel 4. I'm saying if you just want a seamless transition and you're upgrading your phone and everything you have is, again, Apple, then I would go with the iPhone 11. So, all right, what's next? Do you recommend Pixel after all? And 3XL, 4XL, which one do you think is the best choice for now? Honestly, I think it's the Pixel 4. I think it's the best choice for now. I realize you can get a discount now on the 3 and 3XL, etc. But if it wasn't for the 90 hertz display, I wouldn't get a Pixel at all, personally. I know the software is integrated very well from Google, and it's got its pluses, not just minuses, and it's got a great camera and all that. But what is keeping me on this phone is 90 hertz display all the time, along with the smooth animations and how amazing Google Assistant is on here. It's of course local to the phone for the most part. Again, I'll demo it again for you. How's the weather right now? What about next week? What was the Nats score? So, there you have it. Google Assistant works great on any Android flagship, but I don't know, there's just something extra to it here, and you feel like squeezing the phone all day. Anyhow, let's go to the next question here. So, let's see. Good video, man. You need more support. Thank you. By the way, do you think the phone is good for a student in high school? Yes, absolutely. And I think I answered him in the replies. But I also would say that if I was a high school student still, which I'm not, definitely, it's been a while since I was, but I would not feel like all high school students have the exact same needs. So just saying you're a high school student, I don't think there's just one blanket recommendation for all high school students. But generally speaking, I guess, for a high school student, I don't see why this phone wouldn't be great for you. You've got honestly, some people don't think it's that important, but the always-on display. Your teacher might not like it if you're reaching for your phone to see your notifications and what time it is or whatever, all that stuff. But with the always-on display, you don't have to do that. You just kind of look over and you see that. Of course, the Recorder app, which a lot of people have been talking about, is absolutely phenomenal. All right, you can record your classes, your lectures, your lessons, and then you can go back and search certain terms in between them, and you have them all recorded. And even if you're in college, let's say you're a journalism student, that Recorder app it's awesome for interviews. So yes, I definitely would recommend this for a high school student. And you asked specifically over the iPhone 11. Yeah, I don't know what the iPhone 11 offers you as a high school student more than the Pixel 4. Does it have the wide-angle lens? Yeah, that's probably the only thing. Now, again, it goes back to that same old question. If you're comparing apples to apples, the Pixel 4. If you are coming from somebody who's got everything Apple, services, etc., it's probably easiest to stick with the iPhone. It's not impossible, obviously, to switch. In fact, it's very easy to switch. But if you just want the most, the least hassle in upgrading your phone, and everything you have is Apple, that's the only reason that I could think of to stick with an iPhone. Otherwise, you are getting more from the Android competitors, in my opinion. All right, let's see here. This person said that Samsung is behind on updates. They must have been commenting when I said that I would still recommend the S10 as the best overall phone of the year. And, well, quite honestly, I think that's quite overblown. In fairness to Samsung, usually when competitors are updating their phones, whether it's Android or iOS, a lot of times they're catching up with the features that are on the Samsungs. And Google has adopted plenty of features throughout the course of history that were already on Samsungs, that they liked and said, you know what, we should have this native to our operating system. And the latest among that is swiping from the sides to go back. Okay, you open something up. You open something up here like settings, and then if you do this, you go back. That started with the Galaxy S10 and the Note 10, the one-hand operation app for Samsung phones. So they adopted that, for example. That's just the latest thing. So the whole updates thing is really overblown when all the competitors are doing really is adding features that were already on the Samsungs that we're complaining aren't updating. Yeah, it won't get Android 10 first, that's for sure. It doesn't have Android 10 yet, even though the beta program's open. But I don't think that's a big deal at all. You get your security updates pretty timely, and that's the most important thing. But as far as the software, yeah, you're just, most of the others are honestly playing catch up as far as that goes. So I think that's overblown. Was the phone getting warm with 90 hertz forced on? Not at all. Only time I ever felt the phone getting warm was playing one or two games, and that was deep into the game, and it wasn't even that warm. It was, I mean, I guess you could call it warm. It certainly wasn't hot, for example, but using any other app all day long, 90 hertz display, no, I didn't notice any increased warmth at all. So you've got nothing to worry about there. And then let's see here. We've got, do you leave it charging overnight? Most of the time, yeah, if it needs a charge before I sleep, I usually put it on one of my Samsung wireless chargers and let it charge, and it charges no problem. I wake up and it's at 100%. I know some people say not to charge overnight. I think I change phones so often that I'm not too worried about any slightly added, battery degradation. So yeah, that's about it. Now we have one or two suggestions here. Charles Gutcher, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Charles Gutcher. He had a pretty cool suggestion. So we were talking about how buttery smooth it is. Well, I was in the video, and then he put in the replies, change transition animation scale to 5 times. So by default, it's at 1x, 1 time. And I find that personally, I really liked it at 2 times. But, I think I still leave it at 1. But yeah, thanks to Charles for that. Already the smoothest phone of 2019, you can somehow make it even a little bit smoother through the transition animation scale option. So I'll just show you that real quick. This is what he's talking about. If you go to settings and you search transition, there's transition animation scale and developer options. And it's set at 1 by default. He was saying to set it to 5, and it's probably very hard to tell on here, how it looks. Yeah, so I'm gonna put it back to 1, but that's what he was talking about there. You can set that how you want once you enable developer options. And one more tip I got in the comments. The person said that the always-on display also shows the current music you're playing. True. And you can even use motion sense while in that state. That is true. So if the screen is off here on, but the always-on display is on, and let's say you're streaming music from anywhere, Spotify, for example, anywhere else, the motion sense gestures work as well. I'm not playing music right now, obviously, but the motion sense gestures don't only work when the screen is awake. And I guess it's technically awake when there's an always-on display, but you know what I mean. So even when the screen is turned off, you can use motion sense. So that's a good tip. Anyway, I hope I answered all your questions, guys.